Let's talk about overtime. It's going to be up to you to decide how much of it you want to work. I always wanted to work it because it always meant more money. It probably won't for you because you'll be under a 2-year contract that means that you are what's called overtime exempt because you're getting a salary, not an hourly wage. So, the only advantage to working overtime will be that you'll be getting more experience, which is a great reason to do it, and one of the reasons why I also did. I just want you to know up front that I was lucky and not under a contract at my first station. So I was paid by the hour, and I'm pretty sure I was authorized to work 20 hours of overtime a week. I might have been able to do more, but that would have taken special permission. But being pre-authorized to be able to work 20 hours of overtime at what is on the pay scale time and a half was great. It was a blessing. So I got 1.5 times my pay. So I was paid for 40 regular hours and then time and a half for those other 20 hours. For example, using simple math here, if you're paid $10 an hour, you'll get $10 an hour for that first 40 hours. For those 20 hours of overtime, you'll get $15. And this example just happens to be more or less what I was making actually at News Channel 20, because my annual salary, if you were to add all of that up, was $22,000 a year. And that was before overtime. Holiday overtime, now this is a different story. It works differently and probably will for you as well. Sinclair Broadcasting, which owned ABC News Channel 20 and still does, let you choose your own adventure, so to speak. You had 2 options. If you worked the holiday, Christmas, New Year's, let's see what else, Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving, let's see here, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and there might have been a few others there, but if you worked a holiday, you could choose between getting paid time and a half for that holiday, so like working overtime any other day, plus an extra day off in the future, or forego taking that extra day off and instead get paid double time and a half. Now I wanted the money, so I always picked double time and a half and worked all of the holidays I could. In fact, I always volunteered for them, and here's an email proving when I once sent an email overly communicating that. Part of the reason was, well, you all have families and understand family dynamics. I had no motivation to go home during the holidays, and I told my family that I would see them the weekend after whatever holiday just happened. Now, I never really told them about the double time and a half that I was being paid. The other saving grace is that I was never in holiday traffic or trying to navigate the airport. Instead though, and this is kind of funny, I might have been covering those topics as stories. Now, someone under contract, meaning they're salaried, would get to take what's called a comp day. That's that optional day off. And they would be able to take that usually within 2 weeks following the holiday. Now this was usually extended during the holidays in December and January because the Christmas holidays are so close to New Year's. So if you worked Christmas or New Year's, you had until the end of the January pay period, usually around January 31st, to take that comp day. And yes, the money was good. Here's my W-2 from 2007, my first year at ABC News Channel 20. Keep in mind when you look at this, I've run you through my timeline. I was not full-time the entire year. The first 3 months, I was a full-time intern. Then I became the part-time Fox producer. Then I got my full-time gig starting that May. So I wasn't on the books officially for the whole year as a paid employee. And that's why this number is well below the $22,000 that you'll see on my 2008 and 2009 W-2s. The reason that I made so much of my $22,000 of annual salary in only 9 months, you should be looking at some $19,000 or so figure on this W-2, was because I was always there. That's how much overtime there was in 2007. What I really want you to see is this next year, 2008, when I'm on the books full-time for my full base salary of $22,000 and all the overtime I earned, which was about $4,500. The grand total you should be looking at should be just above $26,000. I got so much overtime because few people wanted to work it. I noticed that and volunteered. It's not something I necessarily encourage you to do, but I enjoyed getting the experience. It worked for me. And honestly, it's that experience that got me to Market 5 in Dallas-Fort Worth in under 4 years. Basically, I was creating opportunity for myself, opportunity to succeed. One more kind of overtime I volunteered for was what's called being on call. Being on call meant that there was a week every now and again where if you were a one-person band or a photographer, that you took a station car home with gear in it just in case news happened overnight. If news did happen overnight, the overnight producer at the station who was writing the 5 and 6 a.m. morning newscasts would call you and you'd go out and cover it. The whole idea of taking the gear and the car home with you is that you can get to the scene quickly without having to go to the station and waste time gearing up, getting a car. Here's what happened. The issue became that many of the photographers didn't want to do this, even though it was a required part of their job. So they'd take the station car home and the gear home, but then they just wouldn't answer their phones in the middle of the night saying that they just didn't hear their phone. When I learned of this, I went to the producer and told her to call me instead. Don't even waste trying to call them. Skip that. Call me instead. I was willing to drive in, get the gear, and go out and cover the news. She appreciated that, and I appreciated the experience. In fact, doing that provided me the opportunity to cover more hard news and more crime, because some of that stuff pops overnight. Now, the reason why I didn't take gear or a station car home on those nights was because those would have been most nights of the week, and I didn't want to call attention to the fact that I was volunteering to do this. I also didn't want to maybe get possibly written up for taking a station car home and gear home when not technically assigned to do so, and doing it with such consistency. So, it was much easier to be called in, go in, grab the gear, grab the car, and go out and cover the news. Now, having said all this, it's important to point out that I worked a lot more than I was paid for, a lot more than that 20 hours of overtime a week. Here's an example. All those stories I did on the weekends, the ones where I was sleeping on the couch in promotions, I never put those down as overtime because I was never specifically assigned by a manager to go out and cover them, and certainly never asked for permission. Plus, again, I didn't want to call attention to myself, get the attention of my managers who might have just asked me to stop doing it. Now, I could have asked them for overtime, but I knew my managers pretty well and the culture of the station so well that I knew the answer would probably be no. I mean, pretty much with certainty, they wouldn't have signed off on it. Plus, that specific part of it, those stories, I wasn't doing for the money. I wanted the experience. I wanted the opportunity to practice and apply the skills I was learning at NPPA and Pointer on a good stories and have time, have a day or two to actually work the skills and wring the most out of the story. The weekends were truly a gift because I could do this. In a professional way, it was also freedom. I was doing the stories I wanted to do. I was working on the advanced skills that I knew would get the attention of other markets. And looking back, I'm so glad I played it that way because those pieces are what got the attention of news directors, including the one in Dallas. And making it to Dallas in under 4 years is worth far more than any overtime they would have paid me. And plus, the station wouldn't have paid me. And keep in mind, I was already the one news employee they were letting get an incredible amount of overtime because nobody else was willing to work it. And as I say all this, please don't let this be a lesson in overworking yourself. Let it be a lesson on how to leverage opportunity in your newsroom if you're open to working overtime. You'll figure out what the right balance is for you, and I will be the first one to tell you that I had no balance. I was business 24/7, 365. And again, you'll find the speed that is natural, that is comfortable for you. And please know, as you do this, I both respect and honor that what I was willing to do may not be what you're willing to do. You will find the speed and find the path that's right for you. And as you begin to figure all this out and venture out doing this stuff, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll see you in the next video.